people who know me and people who really know how I maneuver through this world that we exist in know that that's not the case.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, and as always, I'm here with Nicole Moss.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm so excited because we are doing something special today. You just watched the interview that Ashley had with me. And Ashley, let me tell you, so many people gave me props on that interview.
They should.
So thank
It
you
was
for
great.
well, it was great because you guided it in a great way.
Oh,
So I have a
well,
lot
thank
to
you.
live up to today, let me tell you. But thank you so much for that. It was definitely one that I enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to today. But before we get into this, as always, we have to do a little housekeeping, right, Ashley?
Yes, you guys need to tap in with all of our social channels here. We're on everything you can imagine. We're even on Blue Sky. We just don't have a logo for that yet. We're still trying to figure out, are people even on Blue Sky? That's a different conversation for a different day.
Not
But
sure.
tap in with us wherever you happen to be tapped in the world of social media. Also, remember to like, subscribe, turn those notifications all the way up if you are a YouTube watcher, because that is where we post previous episodes, behind the scenes stuff, full length interviews, because we only post little snippets here throughout our shows each week. And then if you're somebody who needs their hands free, maybe you're, wrapping a present, maybe you're cooking, maybe you're driving, whatever it is, we got you covered. Make sure you scan this QR code and we will pop up wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple. Look, at the end of the day, there's no excuse not to be tapped in with We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T, because we're everywhere, guys. We're everywhere.
Everywhere, worldwide. But literally tap in because, we love seeing your comments. There were some beautiful comments on the interview last week, and we want to see them here after this one. Hopefully they're saying that it was good after we do this interview. But we love just being connected with you. It's been amazing, literally, to see, who is listening to us and how we interact with each other. So please tap in and subscribe. But right now, Ashley, get your hair right for the interview. You know what I'm saying?
I just worked out, showered, my hair's wet, so it's in this. What are these called? Banana clips? Is that what this is
Yeah,
called?
I think it
Yeah,
is. That's what I used to call it
that's what I
back in
call
the
it. So I don't know,
yeah.
but we're
So
here.
it's a banana clip. We both call
A
it that. That's
banana
what it
clip.
is.
I don't like
Period.
bananas, but whatever. Different story for a
Wait.
different day.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
I
Listen, we could
don't.
talk.
The weird thing is, it's okay. I like the flavor of a banana. Like, I like the taste of a banana. Like, I can have it in smoothies. I like banana pudding.
Mhm.
I just don't. I can't eat a banana like out of a peel. I think it's weird. Like the grittiness of like the peel, like when you know how like when you peel a banana and it has like those little strings sometimes.
Yes, I do
But
know that.
can't do it. Can't do it.
I
Not
feel
gonna be
you.
able to do it.
And
Nope.
I am very suspicious of bananas now. I wanted to make a TikTok about this because, like
Why?
back in the day, you used to be able to see if the banana was like if it was green, it probably wasn't ready. And then there was like spots on the outside. It probably was like a little bit old, so you didn't want to eat it. Like
Yeah.
the peel kind of told the story. Now I
Yeah.
feel like bananas just go bad inside the peel no matter what. So you don't even know what you're
You
getting when you
think so?
peel it. Yeah, I do. I really do. I've been seeing a difference. I
Well,
know this sounds crazy, but I
they better
have.
listen, all I know is they better get their stuff right, because of the way that groceries cost these days. I don't have
Yes,
time to be second guessing whether a banana's ripe or not. Get it together, bananas,
that's
tomatoes, apples, everything in between.
all of it. Because we're not
True.
trying to waste any money out here in these
You know
expensive
what I'm saying?
grocery
Like,
streets.
mm-mm,
It
mm-mm,
really is.
nope,
But actually, I know we're not doing that.
mm-mm.
But what we are
We gotta
doing
do a
today,
podcast on that one day.
no, we should. And I'm telling you, there's something wrong
Okay, I believe
because,
you.
yeah, I'm gonna post it on TikTok and maybe people will interact, but maybe they won't. But it's something I've seen and I know it to be true. So
I'm about it.
we'll do a little investigation. But today we are investigating you a little bit, Ashley,
Good Lord.
because people have been listening to us and they know a lot about us, but
Mhm.
we just want to get to know you a little bit more,
Okay.
right? We talk about sports and we don't really get to talk about ourselves. So
Right.
this is the opportunity to do that. You and I've been in a lot of interviews like this over the years, and we hear a lot of people introing us, giving us a little intro. But what I want to know is, how would you introduce yourself?
Um, so I'm actually somebody who gets very uncomfortable when people start naming off my accolades. It makes me just like I'm very proud of the things that I've accomplished, but I'm also my mom says has this saying, she says it in Italian, like I'm too humble for my own good. I just don't really for me, it's enough to just have accomplished it. I don't need people to just kind of like, say my name and then add all these things at the end of it. So for me, like I would really just simplify myself. I think first and foremost, I'm very proud to be a New York girl. I wear it proudly, as you know, on this show. I'm very proud to be where I'm from. And I'm just a girl from New York who gets to do what she loves to do every single day in one of the biggest companies in the world. And I feel very blessed and it's been a long time coming to this point. So for me, everything that I've accomplished on the way is incredible, but I simplify it. Like I think that sports is what I love. It's what I'm passionate about. But I think that unlike some people, I think it's not my whole identity. And I think sometimes people's identity gets so wrapped up in their career, especially when you're in a career that's so public facing. I think so much of your self esteem and your self worth comes from, how big you are and how many people know you and things like that. For me, it's never been the case. I'm just very grateful to do what I love to do and that people are receptive to it. So the way I would describe myself in, short answer is just a New York girl who loves sports and gets to do what she loves to do every single day. That's it. Really simple.
And I absolutely love that. And your mom is right. You are very humble. You have done a lot of things. And I think when people see you like on CBS, on their screens,
Mhm.
on social media, they just think it happened. Like,
Oh, yeah.
this is just what she does. But can you tell us a little bit about your path and what moment in your path do you think was the most formative for you to be able to do what you're doing now?
I would say career-wise, the most formative was when I got to Sports Illustrated, but I think that the intangibles of what it takes to have longevity in this career, because I think that a lot of the times people just think like if you know sports, you can talk about sports, like you can have longevity in this career. And it's not the case. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes, so many things that can drain you, so many things that are put in your path as an obstacle that if you don't have the intangibles to deal with that, there is no longevity, no matter how well you know the sport or sports that you're talking about. So I would say to really hone in on my craft, Sports Illustrated was the most formative. It really taught me a little bit of everything from producing, from being on camera, from to being talent, to traveling, to I did my first Super Bowl as talent with Sports Illustrated. So that was really like my crash course in all things being talent and all things sport journalism. But everything leading up to that is where I developed my intangibles. It was, not always having a prompter. When I was interning and doing youth football, I was getting stats literally 30 minutes before we would go on air. I didn't even have time to study them. It was quick studying. It was not getting paid a lot of money and still showing up and waking up every single morning and going to these games and being out on a field for 6, 7 hours a day in the Miami heat. No pun intended. I actually mean the Miami heat. It was like 80 degrees out there. It was ridiculous, if not hotter. Um, it was having to put myself out there with emails and getting rejected in those emails or not getting emails in return, responses in return, and all of those things were the intangibles, hitting the pavement and sending my resumes in and things like that. It wasn't hitting the pavement, I was doing it digitally, but for dramatic effect. So all of those things taught me the intangibles of what it takes to last in this career, having a tough skin, not allowing the opinions and the comments of other people to seep into your psyche and start chipping away at your self-worth. And that was really important as well because those things, unfortunately, you have to learn with experience. And while I was trying to get to SI, it was a lot of years of learning that before I got there to really have the crash course and what it took to be a journalist, to be talent, to be on camera.
So when you got to SI, you had already lived like 1,000 lives
Oh, for
in
sure.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what you would consider to be the most formative thing. I don't want to say your big break because I think everything leads to that moment,
I
right?
would call it my big break though.
Okay. And why would you
Yeah.
call it your big break specifically?
Um, so it's the way that I got to SI was funny, right? It was during I was working on our Heart Radio before that, and I was dabbling between music and sports at the radio station. So across it was a big hallway, and across the hallway was the sports side, and then I was on the music side, and then director of the radio station basically was like, if you want to start doing sports, you can start splitting your time. So it was great. I was loving it. We were talking all Miami sports, and radio's a different beast. There is no take one, take two, take three. It's one and done. But then the pandemic hit and the world changed, and radio took a huge hit, and all of us eventually were furloughed, and you were starting from scratch again. And this is when Clubhouse was popping and everyone was on Clubhouse doing those giant chat rooms. And I remember there was a chat room with a bunch of people in the media space. Either they were furloughed or they were still working. And SI was looking for talent. Now, I don't know if they were fully hiring or they were just starting to like talk to people, but I basically leveraged my following that I already had on social media and said, hey, I will work with you guys for free if you just allow me to come on and post me on your platform and things like that. So I did that for about a month. I was doing sports takes, I was doing interviews. I did an interview with Drew Brees, which was very cool, all while not getting paid, mind you. I wasn't receiving a dollar for this. And when my show Laces Out came into fruition and I started working with my amazing producers, Dakota and Jean, I was a contractor. I wasn't even under contract. I was getting paid per episode of Laces Out, but it was building my platform. And I worked for I want to say, as a contractor for about 5, 6 months before they offered me a full contract for employment. But the platform of SI was huge. I mean, SI is a legacy brand and they were revamping their digital space. And this is when, the era of sports media was drastically changing because the pandemic made people realize like digital is the future and everyone was starting to really invest into digital. And SI had a huge platform and they were one of the first to really start doing it. And I got to be at the forefront of that. And they had never had a Black woman head their video department and be face of their talent. So there's a lot of things that were working in my favor. And for the year that I was there, I leveraged as much as I could, and then that snowballed into SNY and Sirius XM, which then snowballed to here at CBS. And so Sports Illustrated definitely put me on a different platform. I made Forbes 30 under 30 when I was at SI. Like there was a lot of things that came with my time there that just put me in a different stratosphere than I was before that time, for sure.
And when I hear you talk about that, I hear sacrifice. Like you had
Yeah.
to make a lot of sacrifices in your career. And I think working in sports, when I've talked to just women working in sports, we've all had to make a lot of sacrifices.
100.
People think that you get paid a lot. You don't, especially not at the beginning. You have to work your way up to getting some
Mhm.
type of pay. And you certainly put in a lot of sacrifice by not even getting paid to
Mhm.
get there. What do you think has been the greatest sacrifice you have had to make to gain the career that you have now?
Um, Probably like my personal life. And when I say my personal life, I mean more of like my romantic life. We're at the age now where we start seeing people getting engaged, getting married, having babies. And I always knew that in order to really, there's a lot of things working against you when you're a woman and when you're a Black woman, right? You're a double minority. And at the time, although now we're starting to see the fruits of our labor really come into the forefront and the industry is becoming more diverse. And I think people are making more of an effort to have women in spaces and in places that they should have been years and years ago. But when you and I were starting, it wasn't like that. We were still trying to break down, walls and barriers and crack into that ceiling. And I always knew that in order to be very successful, I had to be twice as good for a multitude of different reasons. And in order to do that, I had to really focus in school. Like I really did most of my partying once I graduated college. Like I graduated top of my class. I went in, got out in 3.5 years, 3.8 GPA. I was focused. Like I have to do this because it's going to take me to my next step. And in order to grind and to hustle and to really dedicate myself to get to where I wanted to get to, I didn't allow my brain to be occupied by other things. And that included dating. And that means it didn't mean I didn't date. It didn't mean that I didn't have like little relationships here and there. I did, but I don't think that I ever dedicated myself to them completely the way that maybe some other people have. Or maybe I also just didn't have the right partners who were supportive of the fact that I was very tunnel visioned and what I was trying to accomplish. That could be a combination of as well. But obviously, I'm 30, almost 32 years old. I've never been married. I've never had any kids. And that's different than a lot of the people in my circle who are on their second kid or getting married and getting engaged and things like that. And that's something that I and a lot of women have had to sacrifice doing that later in life, or ultimately if they decide not to do it at all. So for me, that was the biggest sacrifice that I made, to the point now where it's like you get to a certain age and you start looking around and you're like, all right, like, did I put too much emphasis in this one thing to where now this part of my life is not as full as maybe it could have been if I was a little bit more focused on this, or maybe I was a little bit more even keeled in my focus in terms of, giving each thing its individual needs. But for me, I was so determined to get to this position and higher that I don't think that I would have been able to do that. So that's probably the biggest sacrifice that I've made.
I can relate to that on all levels. I'm
Mhm.
actually 44, never been married, never had kids, and I feel the same way. And I feel like a lot of women in media feel that way as well.
Yeah.
Just being in the spaces that we're in sports, just working in sports, even the demand of it is something that can kind of impede your personal life in a way, or have you make sacrifices in a lot of ways, just from going to games, all the games that you have to work, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's definitely part of it. I also just want to say it's part of the times we in too, because it's just hard out here to date.
I also think
It's
it's interesting too because being a woman in this industry and not, it's like a double-edged sword, right? Dating in this industry has its own issues and things that come with that. And obviously when you are working in this industry, you don't want to necessarily go the athlete route because that's a bad look. And unless it's like your forever person, which you don't know unless you're dating them, if that doesn't work out and you end up dating somebody else and there's a whole, that's how she got her job and this and that. But
Mhm.
just like if you're a doctor or if you're a lawyer or you work in any type of space, most of the time people meet at work because that's where you spend a lot of your time, right? But there's this negative connotation with us dating people within our field because of, other things, right? So that kind of has a scarlet letter on it. And if you do end up doing that, it's like very hush hush. And then we all know, the stigma of athletes and the things that come, the reputation that they have. And that's a whole different thing. But I've also found that when you try to date outside of this world and you date the regular guy, and I'm putting that in air quotes for people who are listening, on audio, it's hard for someone to understand your proximity to people that they put on a pedestal, right? Like I think of it as when I was on the outside looking in and I was trying to get into this industry, you put, these athletes on such high pedestals. They seem larger than life. They're like these mega celebrities. And it's, you can understand that it's a rose colored the glasses theory, right? And then when you're in it, it kind of loses its enamor a little bit. It loses its allure, if you will, because it becomes your everyday existence. It becomes very regular to you. But for somebody who only sees a LeBron James on TV when he's watching a Lakers game, the fact that you have a proximity where you've met LeBron or you've interviewed LeBron or you've attended a LeBron party or whatever the case may be, that's very hard for someone to fathom and to understand. So I find also when you're trying to date outside this world, it can be intimidating for a lot of men that their person has proximity to people that they put on such a high pedestal, people who are, more successful than they are in the eyes of the general public and things like that, and have a lot of things that maybe that person can't provide. It's very hard navigating essentially both those worlds and trying to be successful in the world of love when those are the odds that you're kind of dealing with.
I do know. And I also, being front facing, being on camera too is another
Mhm.
thing that I feel like is a challenge because they see what you're doing and that
Mhm.
people are interacting with you, that you have a social media following, and it
Mhm.
all feels like power in a way.
Mhm.
And that can be a challenge too. When we're talking about this and we're talking about the challenges of dating, I think about misconceptions that come up
Mhm.
for, especially I would say, like, women of color who are on camera too. I feel like we're under a microscope
Mhm.
on another level. What do you think the biggest misconception is about you that people have?
That's a whole podcast in itself. The biggest miss probably that I've, like, dated all these athletes and that, I have this long Rolodex of athletes that I've been with and that I've, you know, been in relationships with, and what it's not even remotely close to the truth. People who know me know I've had one relationship in this space, and other than that, every other single person has been truly a platonic friend. I think that I am in a situation that a lot of women find themselves in, and that is every time you're followed by an athlete or you're photographed with an athlete or you're in the proximity of, all of a sudden it's, oh, she's dating him and this and that. It is not the case. I have been very, because I understand the blowback that comes with that. And maybe like that's also my fault. Maybe I could be blocking my blessing for all I know. Who knows? But I've also been very aware of the stigma that comes with athletes. And I know myself as a woman and I know what I'm willing to tolerate and what I'm not willing to tolerate. I would never put myself in a position where I will knowingly lose. I think that I value the career that I've built, I value the reputation that I've built. I value just the life that I have built, and I'm not willing to jeopardize that if it's not the real thing. I think people think that and all women are incapable of building something for themselves unless it's given to them by a man. And that's not the case. This life existed before a man, it will existed after. And truthfully, if I had somebody, the thing that's mind blowing to me is people aren't even smart enough. Do you don't think that if I could have cheat coded myself to this, you don't think I would have done that? Like, you think I wanted to get paid
Seriously.
$500 a show and live off of, no, I would have totally been milking my multi-million dollar boyfriend to help me along. Like, give me more credit than that.
Okay.
Um so I think that's the biggest misconception. And at first it used to really annoy me because it's like I worked so hard to get to this position. And it was like a slap in the face. But now I realize it just comes with the territory. It's not a story that's exclusive to me. I think all women in this industry have dealt with it in some way, shape, or form. But I think that the more insulting thing is I think that people think that you're incapable of having platonic friendships with people unless there's a deeper situation going on there. And it's just like every single person that I've ever been photographed with or been around has not been my boyfriend. Like, we have not been in a relationship. And that's by design. So for me, I just kind of take it with a grain of salt, and I deal with it. And I think that people who know me and people who really know how I maneuver through this world that we exist in know that that's not the case. There's not all these NBA players who can say, "Yep, yep, yep," like it's just not true. So if the internet wants to believe that, I have to just say at least they're pairing me with guys who are like all-stars and they're not like bench warmers, you know what I mean? I'll take it. At least if you're gonna make a rumor about me, at least let him be a successful ball player. I'll
I
take it.
mean, at least get the rumor right, I guess, right?
You know what I mean? If it's gonna be false, at least give me an all-star. I'm good with that.
Right, and it's wild to me because just working in sports,
Yeah.
I used to stand in the visiting team tunnel at the Warriors, and anytime any player said hello or talked to me, all of a
Mhm.
sudden, I was romantically involved with them, and they would bring me into an office and ask me, and I'm just like, "I literally have to stand there for my job. Am I supposed to be mean?" And
When I was in
ultimately, I did
I
be
think we
mean.
talked about this either off camera or we talked about it on camera, but when I was in Vegas for the summer league, my friend Victoria and I hosted a party at Delilah, and we had a bunch of ball players come through, and it was really cool, and I had on this red silk dress. Mind you, we're in Vegas. It was 100 degrees out there. It was the middle of the summer, and we're, again, in Vegas. We're not at the White House, we're in Vegas. And there was a photo of me and Mikal Bridges, who I've known for years. Shout out to the Knicks. And we take this picture, and I have this dress on, and he has it. He's smiling, I'm smiling, like that's my dog. And all hell broke loose. Oh, she's trying to get saved. She's trying to get locked down by an athlete. She's this, that's inappropriate. She's a journalist. I wasn't working. I wasn't interviewing him. I was at a party in Las Vegas in the middle of the summer, 100 degrees. This is what I'm talking about, where people think that your job is supposed to be your whole identity. It has never been the thing that I formulate who I am about. It is what I do, it's what I love. But I've also been very, very just self aware of the fact that people watching me need to also know it's not my full existence. It's not my life. I travel. I'm a young woman with no kids. I'm going to wear a short dress when I'm not working. I'm going to wear a bikini when I'm on vacation. I'm going to take shots with my friends. You know, I'm if I don't cover the NFL, so I'm gonna tweet that Jalen Hurts is hot. Like, it's what I'm gonna do. Like, it's not I'm not my job does not define me. And if people expect it to be my existence 24/7, they're going to be highly disappointed. Like, highly.
And I know that, you just talked about a social media instance where people just lost their
Yeah.
minds.
Mhm.
And I know you see some really terrible comments on there. I know you have
Yeah.
to see them because
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
really active on social media. I mean, you obviously handle it all well.
Yeah.
And I like that you do. But how do you combat those messages? Like how do you preserve your mental space when you have to see these things all of the time that people are saying?
I think there's a few things you do, right? Like, as a New York girl, I'm quick to clap back, and I've had to, like, dial it back because, like, if you wanna go there, we can go there. Like, so
Mhm.
I'm never like what John Moran say, "I don't duck smoke." You know what I mean? Like, we can go there.
Okay.
So but also we're held to a different standard, right? Like, we have to hold ourselves to a different standard than people on social media. So, it's about muting certain words that you don't wanna see. It's about, putting parameters on your comments and things like that. And even the times that they do kind of creep through, every now and then I'll clap back. I'm very big on, the advancement and just, the positivity of women. And I hate seeing comments that are, men talking about women's bodies and, that whole Sydney Sweeney thing that went down. I was like, you guys are losers. There's nothing wrong with how she looks. Like, stop talking crazy. Like, I'll clap back on things like that. Every now and then I'll do a little clap back, with me. But I think I also just, and this is such a cliche, it comes with time. And I think that when I was younger and I was first getting out in this industry, first getting started in this industry, rather, I would respond to everything because it's your natural instinct to want to defend yourself. If someone comes at you and starts talking to you crazy, your first instinct as a human is to defend yourself. But as you learn that like you have more to lose than the person tweeting at you or leaving a comment on your Instagram, you just like keep it moving. You either read the comments or you don't. Some people don't have the skin to read the comments. I'm at this point in my life now, this stage in my life where like I read it. It doesn't even like move me anymore. Like if I see one that's a little crazy, I'll say something back just because that's just how I'm built. But 9 times out of 10 nowadays, like I read the comments and it doesn't even like shake an ounce of a it doesn't evoke an ounce of emotion out of me anymore. I've just gotten to that stage, and unfortunately, you can't rush that process. You just have to kind of go through the motions until you get there. But I believe for the most part, some people never quite get there. I think for the most part, though, as you grow and as you become more confident in your skill set and just yourself as a person, specifically as a woman, you get to the point where it's like, all right, like the person tweeting at this is probably like sitting in his mom's basement eating Cheetos at 10 a.m. Like, I'm not even about to go back and forth with you. So you got it, you know?
Right. And that's excellent advice on all fronts. I don't care if you're in this industry or not. Like, those people don't matter in the grand scheme
Yeah.
of things. And in addition to, the bad comments that definitely on there, there's some amazing comments. When you drop interviews specifically,
Mhm.
people love to see you interview someone. I know I do.
Mm.
I watched many of them getting ready for this. And I was just thinking when I'm watching this, you've interviewed so many amazing people in your career. What was your favorite interview of all time that you ever had?
So many good ones. So when I was at Sports Illustrated and we did the Super Bowl in LA, I got to interview Emmett Smith. As you know, I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. Um, That was incredible. My dad is a diehard Cowboys fan. That's how I became one. And obviously, Emmett, I was a baby when Emmett was playing, so I didn't actually get to watch him. I've only watched, clips, and I've read the Boys Will Be Boys book back there. And he's obviously a huge part of the Cowboys, winning legacy. But the cool thing is, I actually brought my dad's jersey with me to LA, and Emmett signed it for me. And my dad has it framed in his office. So that was a very cool moment. I didn't get to meet him, but I didn't get to interview him, but I met Allen Iverson. You know how much AI has been an influence on my love of just the sport of basketball. Penny Hardaway was very, very cool. I got to interview him in Memphis with a bunch of his young stars, Amani Bates, Jalen Duren. That was very cool. Angel Reese was a dope interview. We interviewed her in Baton Rouge right after LSU won the title. And this was before Angel Reese blew up. She was already big, but this is before she became a megastar. And it was just it's been very cool to just not only watch her trajectory, but I had an opportunity to really tell her, woman to woman, black woman to black woman, like, I'm proud of you. Like, it's not gonna get easier, but like, you just continue to be you and the right people will flock to you. And you have a platform that's going to change the landscape of the WNBA. And she got to receive that. And it's just been dope watching her take, not that she took my advice to heart, but just taking everything that she's been given and just running with it. So I've been very fortunate to meet some very, very cool people. We did Wemby and Dirk recently. That was amazing. So I have my favorites, but honestly, I'm very grateful whenever I get to interview anybody I've either idolized or just been a fan of, or I'm just meeting for the first time. My favorite thing is to really just peel back layers of people and get to know who they are outside of what they do. I think a lot of the times we get so caught up in stats and numbers, and it's part of the game, it's part of what we do. Um, but my favorite thing is like these are still people, and I love to just get to know the person versus getting to know the athlete. And I've been fortunate enough to do that with so many great people. So I'm very grateful.
Definitely. I mean, the list of people you've interviewed is so long, but I know there's got to be someone that you want to interview that you haven't yet. Who is that top person? Like, if you could just say, like, pitch them right now to interview them, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. Obviously, like the person I would have loved to, and he's no longer with us, is Kobe Bryant.
Hmm.
My biggest I don't have a lot of regrets. I try not to live with regrets because I think that everything happens for a reason, and God puts you on a path for a reason. But one of my biggest regrets is that my career never passed with Kobe's path. Just to even just be in his vicinity. Like, not even to speak to him, just to breathe his air. Like, that's how much of a fanatic I am when it comes to Kobe. Somebody I haven't
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to sit down with AI. I've met him, but I didn't get a chance to interview him. That would be huge for me. Brady would be awesome. I would love to interview Candace Parker. We've talked about her on the show plenty of times. She's the reason I fell in love with women's basketball. Serena Williams has also had a huge impact on me. Would love to interview her. Barack Obama, I would love that interview. Now that he's no longer president, I feel like I'd be able to really have like a
A
go for
real good
gold,
combo.
a real one. Carmelo, I've met Carmelo. He's a homie, but I would love to just the Knicks connection. There's so many people that I haven't interviewed yet that I would love to. I'm honestly just a fan of so many of these people. I think so many of them are so talented in so many different spaces. And I'd be open and just welcoming to anybody who just would want to sit down and just really be transparent and vulnerable with me.
So you have a list of people that you want to interview,
Yeah.
but what do you see or where do you see your career going within the next 5 years? Like where in 5 years from now, where do you want
Yeah.
Ashley Nicole Moss to be?
Um, I would love to have my own show, surrounded by, obviously in the landscape of basketball, and we all know how much both on the men and women's side, I really just do love the sport. It's been such a huge part of my upbringing and growing up in New York. It's everything to us. We don't have a big football following like the South does. And even I think out west, because of the weather, you guys have more of a football following than we do in New York. It's basketball is everything. So it's been such a huge part of my life. And I truly am a student of the game. I'm constantly watching and learning. And that's one of the reasons why this podcast has been so fun, is because I was such a casual WNBA watcher. I obviously only followed the Liberty, and when Candace was playing, I would follow her wherever she went. But I wasn't as engulfed in the sport as I am now, and having to be to like learn about it. And then it's been such, exciting. It's been such an exciting time for me because it has similarities to the men's game, but it's also its own game and its own entity and in its own right. So it's been cool to kind of learn as I'm going. So I would love to have my own NBA, WNBA show. Um, I'd love to be Emmy nominated or Emmy award winning in 5 years, hopefully both. Hopefully it wouldn't take me 5 years to win one. Um, I would love to start dabbling into other spaces as well. Things like fashion and beauty are such a huge part of who I am as a person. Um, I would love to hopefully be in love. I think that would be ideal as well. I think that women have a we're kind of taught we can't have everything, and I think that that's not true. I think that at some point in your life you do have to sacrifice to get one thing or the other. But I think ultimately, like, women are so multi-dimensional that it only makes sense that we can have everything. Um so I look forward to having everything in 5 years from now. Um, I would love to have a foundation of some sort to just continue the advancement of women. I'm such a feminist, and I know people are like, "Oh my god, I think women are amazing." And I think that we have so much to give this world, and we have so much talent just innately within us, and we have so much love just innately within us. And I think there needs to be more opportunities for us to give that and to show the world that. And I think that women who are in a position of power, also putting that in air quotes, or influence. Once you get to a certain point in your career, I think that it's our responsibility as just humans who occupy space on this planet to make sure the next generation has it easier than we did. And I look forward to being part of that. And I hope that, the strides that I've made in my own career have ultimately made it a little bit easier for the women that have come after me. And I look forward to just continuing that charge. Um, so in 5 years, I wanna have a bunch of different things. I want everything.
Listen, and so you shall have it. It's already on the way, Ashley. You are doing such amazing things in this space. You've shown that you're relentless. You're not going to stop until you do get all of that. And I just see it all for you. Just as we're sitting
Aw.
here, you're painting the picture of where you are going to be, not where you're going. So
Your lips to God's ears, girl.
listen, you're listening. You know he is.
Mhm,
But we've talked a lot about career.
mhm,
We've talked a lot about what you've accomplished, where you want to go, but I want to know
yeah.
a little bit about you. What is one thing that people would not normally know about you?
I'm actually very shy. I think that I am. So when I was a kid, the whole reason I got into Not the whole reason, but so when I was a kid, my mom used to take me on auditions a lot. Like I was part of like an acting school in New York and she would take me on auditions. And when I was in Vegas, my mom and dad had a business trip, or my dad had a business trip and we accompanied him to Vegas. I had to be 7, 8 years old, maybe. Couldn't be older than that. I could have even been 6. So around that age. And the M&M store, I don't even know if it's still there, but there used to be an M&M store, kind of like the one that they have in Times Square. And they would do like little skits on this stage and they were like pulling kids from the audience and I was the green M&M. Mind you, I'm a very shy kid. I was very attached to my mom. I only talked to people who talked to me and like I only talked to my friends. I was always okay playing by myself. I'm an only child, so like I mean I have a half brother, but like we didn't grow up together, so most of my existence was like being in the house by myself as a kid. Like my parents were there, but no other kids. Um, so I learned how to like be okay being by myself. And when a camera would go on me, I would flip a switch. I became a drastically different person. So we did this M&M thing and like I'll never forget what my line was. I was the green M&M. The camera came on me. We were filming like a fake commercial and my line was get your own bag, and it was just like the most attitude, like head moving, and I remember like the adrenaline rush that went through my body, and the minute the camera shut off I went like back into my shell. But that's how my mom like noticed that like a camera was like my safe space. So I would do commercials and I would do like little extra work when I was living in the city and things like that. And ultimately like being an actor requires especially as a kid like you have to deal with rejection well, which I don't think I did. But it's what spawned my love of being on camera, which then ultimately led me to sports. But people in my everyday life will tell you like if you know me, I'm super bubbly and have a lot of personality and I'm cracking jokes. But if you don't, I'm very like reserved and I'm more of like observing my surroundings. And if you come and talk to me, I'll talk to you, but I'm not going to go out of my way to like talk to you. I don't need to be the center of attention. So this space has always given me an outlet to be like my most confident self, because although I'm confident in my everyday life, I'm a lot more quiet and I'm a lot more reserved. And it's only the people who are close to me who get to see my more bubbly and out there personality. So people think you're on camera, you're like an extrovert. I am not. I am not. I'm very quiet to myself.
Well, I personally have not seen The Quiet yet, so
Well,
maybe
because you're closer to me. But if you
yeah,
like, if you just met me like tomorrow, you would be like, that's weird. That doesn't seem like the same girl. Like, yeah,
right.
I like to be in
But
my bubble.
it's it's very interesting to me because I would say that I'm more of an introvert too until
Yeah.
I get to know people. And I know a lot of women that are in this space that are the same way. So there must be
Mhm,
something to that. But
mhm.
it's pretty phenomenal that your mom found what kind of unlocked the gift
Yeah.
in you. And she continues to cultivate it to this very day. I know you've had a lot of people that have influenced your career and have really guided you in different ways. What's one piece of advice that they gave you that you would pass on to somebody who's thinking about doing this career as well?
So one of the first people who really took me under their wing was Jalen Rose, and he's like my big brother to this day. And I love his daughter. Mariah always comes to me with like questions and things. Like now she's entering this space, and um, I remember Jalen said something. This is not verbatim, but he basically told me like, you don't want to do this if you can't be yourself. And it may take you longer to get to where you want to be by being yourself, but it will always be more rewarding. And when I was coming up in this industry, and if you look at like old clips of me when I was like on local news and stuff like that, like my hair was straight constantly. It was like almost bleach blonde. It was just, my hair was fried. I was, trying to dilute my accent as much as possible. I was trying to be the version of a lot of the women who were already successful and where I wanted to be. And it just did not feel like me. And when something doesn't feel like you, it comes across like it comes across disingenuous, right? When I was around 25, and this is again like the world started to change a little bit, and a few years after that the pandemic happened, and I think that people started to be more welcoming to diversity and authenticity and not being that cookie cutter version of what a journalist was supposed to be. And I really took Jalen's advice to heart, and I realized like if I can't be me being in this space, then like anything that I obtain is not going to feel the same because it's not me who's getting it. It's this version of me. And people will say a lot about things about me. You're in an opinion based business. People won't always like your opinions. They won't always like your takes. That's cool. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Like only one person can be right in an argument when you're talking about something, and people are gonna feel how they feel. But I think that people will always say, regardless of whether or not they like my takes or not, is that I'm always me when I give them. I can always back it up. I always show up unapologetically myself. I'm authentically myself. I lead with the fact that I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I lead with the fact that I'm a Cowboys fan. I lead with the fact that I'm a Yankees fan. I'm always cracking jokes if the joke is there. Like, I say things that are teasing sometimes, but it's never from a malicious place. Like, my favorite compliment is when somebody comes to me and says, I love watching you because that's how me and my friends talk about sports. It's not me talking at you. It's like if you were to sit down at a bar or a restaurant or in your living room with your homies and you start debating Jordan versus LeBron, it feels natural. It feels authentic because that's how sports fans talk. I think that we've lost a lot of sports is not politics. We're not solving the economic crisis. We're not curing cancer. It's sports. It's fun. And I think that people are more receptive to fun and authenticity because that's how sports fans are. They want to just talk about sports the way they talk about it with their people. And I think the biggest compliment I've ever received, and I credit Jalen for just shifting my mindset when it comes to this, is when people tell me like, yo, listening to you is like listening to my friends. Like, these are the debates we have in our group chat. And to me, that's a huge compliment because I've always wanted to be, regardless of the platform that I had, I never wanted to lose my relatability to people because at the end of the day, I'm no different than any other sports fan. I just have a bigger platform. And I always want that to come across. I'm not better than you. I don't know more than you. It's just I have a platform that allows me to reach more people. But I was you 5, 6 years ago, like debating sports with my dad in the kitchen. Like that's how I learned how to debate. That's how I learned how to analyze. And I never wanted to lose that. So that's probably the best advice is just keep your relatability, keep your authenticity. Like, don't lose that because that's what makes you a person, you know?
It's definitely being you and being yourself is your superpower, and you definitely embody that every time. No, every time you see on
You're
camera. Yeah, there you go. That encapsulates exactly
yeah.
what I'm saying. But you definitely connect to a lot of people in what you do just by being you. And Ashley, right now, we are going to do one of our favorite segments, and I'm excited about this one. It's Connecting Changes Everything, presented by AT&T. Now, we usually connect with the people that we're interviewing about the Trailblazers in their life. And since I'm interviewing today, I want to know, in your life, from start to right now, who has been the trailblazer that has affected you the most?
Obviously my mom. I feel like that's a very cliche answer, but I think that my mom has really, and sometimes, your mom will tell you things, you're like, you're my mom, you have to say that. But she really just instilled in me, whether or not I always hone into that, it's always innately in me, just the confidence that I can do anything and be anything, even when I feel like I can't. And having that just constant reassurance, having that constant cheerleader, having that person who just won't let you quit. There were so many times before I got my Sports Illustrated job that I was like, this isn't for me. Like, I have to figure out something else to do. Like, it's not happening. Like, I put this weird timeline on myself. Like, if I'm by the time I'm 25, if I don't have a job in the industry, like, I gotta find. And like, there were so many times that like I just felt like it's not gonna happen for me, and she just would not let me quit. And she was just like, "You have to keep going." Like, I'm not gonna let you quit. And she sacrificed obviously so much. You know, she's sacrificed her career to raise me when I was a kid. So my dad could go to work and provide, and you know, she was mostly home with me, and I watched her when she was working, going from work in the morning and rushing on the subway to make sure she could pick me up at after school, you know, before they would close. And I would see her then cook dinner and do it again the next day and the next day. And just having that vision of a woman working and then not working because she sacrificed so her daughter could have a bigger, better career than she did, just makes you feel like you can like accomplish anything. It just makes you feel like you can do anything. And there were a lot of times when I was younger that I don't really think I understood it. And I think you don't really understand that level of sacrifice, and you don't have an appreciation for it until you get older. And you know, people around you start having kids, and your mindset just changes as a woman as you get older. And I just now realize that everything that I am, and this is not a knock to my dad because he obviously taught me so much about the game, and he's the reason why this is my career. But I think so much as what I am as a woman is because I not only had the example of my mother, but I had just like her words of affirmation constantly. Like, she was always telling me how smart I was. She was always telling me how pretty I was, always telling me how capable I was. And you, it gets annoying at times. You're like, "You're my mom, you have to say that," but you don't realize like just that constant feeding of you. It's like a plant. That's that constant love, that watering, that sunlight, the, you know, the soil, just making that soil, making sure that soil is fertilized. Like, you don't realize how much that helps you grow until like you look back and you realize like you were once this big and now you're this big and you're getting bigger and bigger. And I feel like everything, all of my, you know, powerful traits and all of my just strong traits and all of my ambition and my determination in part comes from my dad, but it's because like my mom made me a strong woman before I even knew that I was going to be one. So she absolutely is my trailblazer for sure.
Whew, that was bars. My
Yeah.
mom made me a strong woman before I even knew I was going
Yeah.
to be one. Whew, child.
Since
Let's
I was a
go.
little baby, she was priming me up.
Well, and I saw this firsthand when we had the 10th anniversary
Yeah.
episodes and she came on set. It almost I got emotional before
Yeah.
we started because I could feel her pride beaming off of her watching you. And sometimes I would catch her out the corner of my eye when we were in the interview and you were asking something. She just like would light up every
Yeah.
time because she's
She's
so incredibly
definitely
proud of
my
you.
biggest fan. And listen, she a strong New York woman raised a strong New York woman. And I, you know, being biracial, obviously we hear the stories about like black moms and things like that and the power of that. But I always say like I completely understand that. But listen, my Sicilian Italian, just New York mom, she raised me to be a tough. She always tells me whenever I'm feeling bad for myself, she said, I'm gonna give you this day, but I want you to remember you're my daughter and I ain't raised no punk. So man up.
Come on, Mama Moss, let's go.
Gives
She
me the
ain't
day,
playing.
and she's like, "Buck up, all right? You're a New York woman. Act like one. You're my daughter. Act like it." So
Well,
I'm like, "All right."
I was gonna ask you how New York influenced you, but that just encapsulated it
That's what
right
it
there.
is. Ain't raised no punk. Tell you that much.
Period. Period. Well, Ashley, I'm so blessed to sit here with you every week, you know, sometimes multiple times a week
Yeah.
about sports, but I'm equally blessed just to know you on the level that I do
Oh,
now. And I'm really glad that everybody got to hear and see more about you today, because it's a blessing. It's a blessing. You are an incredible person. You're doing incredible things, and more incredible things are on their way. And I just I like that I get to be just a little part of that. Um,
yes, and
the
thank
grand
you again.
scheme of
I'm
things.
very and listen, this was a great interview. I'm usually not on this side of things, so but I love being able to do this with you. I think I've said that so many times. I can't wait to watch this grow, and I just think that the more spaces that we have for women, by women, I just hope that when we have our own 10-year anniversary show years and years from now, that we're talking about a space that, we helped kind of crack some ceilings and break down some barriers so that the women after us kind of have it just a little bit easier than we did. Hopefully they don't have the same horror stories that we.
Woo, I hope not.
That's
I
a
hope
different pod, guys. The horror stories episode, that's a different pod.
we could have a whole series, but
Yeah,
um
we could have a whole series.
but I'm certainly glad that we had this episode today. And, make sure to get this content that we're bringing you and episodes like these. Make sure that you are subscribed, that you're tapped in. All of our information is right here. We love all the comments that you leave. Please leave some below. Ashley's really good about answering
Yes.
any question that you may have, but don't let it be some she got to clap back on, because she'll do it too. We just talked about that. But we're going to also have a QR code at the end of this episode that will bring you right to every single way that you can tap in with us, whether it be listening to the pod, or social media, or subscribing on YouTube. But, make sure that you're connected so you can get episodes just like these and get to know us more, because there's one of me already on there and you just listened to the one of Ashley, but we're going to have so much more coming your way right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
Bye, guys.